What's up, everyone? I'm Grant Cohn. I'm flying solo today. I represent all 49ers. Normally on Wednesdays, I'm on with Crystal Score, but she's moving from Toronto to Vancouver. She'll be back on the West Coast. So you'll see her next week. Today it's just me. And my pattern is I usually start off talking about football topics in a very professional tone, maybe 4 or 5 minutes on each topic. And I try to impress you with all of my insights and opinions. And then as I get maybe 20, 30, 45 minutes in, I just kind of get delirious and go off on tangents and say really weird things. So if you stick with me, I'll probably do this for an hour. And the first 20 minutes will be by the book, and then I'll go on off the rails after. I marketed this as will Shanahan trade for Kirk Cousins or Matt Ryan? I was just trying to get your attention. No, I'm serious. We're going to talk about that. I'm going to build up to that. But I want to start by talking about Jimmy. I got 2 topics with Jimmy, then we'll go into the other quarterbacks. And I got 10 topics in all, if you'll bear with me and spend the next hour or so with me. All right, Jimmy. Kyle Shanahan spoke 2 hours ago, 2.5 hours ago, and he had good news, or so it seemed. He was presenting good news, but he always has a negative tone with everything. And basically what he was doing was presenting a challenge to his quarterback through the media and pretending it was good news. So the good news is Jimmy Garoppolo is a full go for practice. No restrictions. And as a fan, you're supposed to think, great, he's 100% healthy, he's good. But what Kyle said is, but look, he's not 100% healthy. He's a full go. He basically has to play through this injury. And he may not be 100% healthy the rest of the season. High ankle sprains are tricky. They linger. They're lingerers. And basically what Shanahan says was, I don't care. He needs to play. He needs to perform at his best. He's not going to be as good as he usually is. We know that. But you still have to play if you're compromised. And he said, look at Ben Garland, our center. He has a high ankle sprain. He had a month off. He came back, and he's been struggling through it, not playing at his best, but playing for the team, stepping up, because if it weren't for him, the center would be Hronis Grasu. So Shanahan had a lot of respect for Garland. And basically he's saying, like, we need to see the same from Jimmy. I need to see that level of, to me, Shanahan considers it professionalism. It's not enough to play when you're 100% healthy. You sign that contract, you're agreeing to play if it's physically possible. And what Shanahan's saying is, I don't know if Jimmy's that player. He hasn't proven that he's the kind of guy who's willing to play through injury, who enjoys competing when he's less than 100% healthy. I think he straight up called out Jimmy Garoppolo today and challenged him and said, look, man, we're not going to use the ankle as an excuse anymore. I benched you at halftime because you were playing poorly, and I told the world it's because your ankle hurt. That's over with. Last week, you were a limited participant. Now you're a full participant. Now you're healthy enough to play. If you're freaked out on the field, then people are just going to say this is an overall pattern that's been going on since week 1, because he looked freaked week 1. Remember that pirouette that he did in the pocket where he spun right, spun back left, spun back right, and got sacked? That was on him. That was before he hurt his ankle. I mean, he looked like he's been unhappy playing football and scared to get hurt for a long time, since before he hurt his ankle. So to me, Shanahan's calling him out. And I got to say real quick, if you guys have been reading me for years, you may remember this. But when I wrote for the Press Democrat, when the 49ers traded for Jimmy Garoppolo in 2017, I did a feature where I interviewed 2 Boston writers about Jimmy, what to expect, Ben Volin and Ron Borges. And they both gave very interesting insights. One thing Borges said was that some people on the Patriots question Jimmy Garoppolo's toughness, that they question whether his willingness to play through injury. If you remember, in 2016, he was the starting quarterback in New England week 1 and week 2 because Jimmy Garoppolo got suspended 4 games for deflating footballs. Jimmy Garoppolo only made it 6 quarters. Week 1, he eviscerated the Cardinals, a good Cardinals team. Week 2, he left in I believe the first half. He played either the second or third quarter. He got knocked out of the game against the Dolphins, injuring his shoulder. And that was it. He was done. Didn't come back. Jacoby Brissett replaced him. The Patriots were down to their 3rd quarterback. I believe Brissett broke his thumb, something in his hand, and played through it. because if he didn't play, they were out of quarterbacks. And from what Borges said on the record was that the Patriots all had tremendous respect for Jacoby Brissett for doing something very difficult and uncomfortable for the sake of the team because they were desperate. And they didn't necessarily hold it against Jimmy Garoppolo. They didn't play through his injury, but they noticed that one guy did and one guy didn't. That's the way Borges put it at the time. Like, it's unfair to hold it against Jimmy, but they noticed. And it's something to look for going forward. And really, if you think about it, Jimmy's never proven that he's that tough guy like, say, CJ Beathard or Nick Mullins. Beathard's played through a lot of stuff. Mullins, I think, had like a bone popping out of his skin in his thumb, something like that in college, and like popped it back in and played. These guys have done that kind of stuff. Jimmy, I think Shanahan has that question, and he's putting it out there like, dude, you're going to have to play through this the rest of the year. If your numbers are a little bit down, people will understand, but you have to make it through the game. You got to play. You got to compete. I don't think he competed last week, and I don't think the Niners competed either. So a challenge from Kyle Shanahan to Jimmy Garoppolo. Interesting, because it seems like Shanahan's been challenging Jimmy Garoppolo nonstop since 2017. It seems to me that Shanahan had his heart set on Kirk Cousins, didn't get him, got Jimmy Garoppolo instead, and begrudgingly said, okay, dude, fine. You need to play this well, or else I'm going to continue to want Kirk Cousins. And Jimmy Garoppolo has never played whatever this well is. I don't know if Kirk Cousins has either. But in Shanahan's mind, there is this bar that Jimmy can't hit that Cousins hit a long time ago. I don't know. No one else in reality, in the real world, sees it that way, but Shanahan does. So before I get to Kirk Cousins, I have one more question about Jimmy. I posed this question online today. I said, who will be the next quarterback who retires before 30? Some quarterbacks have done that. It seems to be a trend of my generation. Millennials, people born in the late 80s and early 90s, and I don't blame them. I mean, guys who reach 30, look at their bank account, notice that they have 50, 75, $100 million and think, geez, do I still love this sport? Do I want to get more hits? Do I want to risk concussions or a long-term limp, something like that? And you see guys like Jake Lock or Andrew Luck say, no, I'm good. Thanks a lot. I've done enough in this sport, proven enough. I'm done. Is there another guy in the league that you think might do that? Look, I'm just going to throw a name out there for the sake of this exercise because I presented it. Is there a guy who's going to be the next Andrew Luck? I'm not saying he will, but if we had to name someone, who would you name? The guy who pops up to me is Jimmy Garoppolo. And I'll name you why. I'll list the reasons. Jimmy Garoppolo spends a lot of time rehabbing. Since he became a full-time starter in 2018, he's missed 15 games in 3 years. In two and a quarter years, he's missed 15 games. So he pretty much spends as much time rehabbing as he does playing. He's gotten to the point now where it's questionable whether he can really protect himself on the field. He gets hurt a lot. And when he is on the field and not hurt, it looks like he's a little jittery about the next hit. Will he wear the knee brace? Will he not wear the knee brace? I mean, he seems like a little bit of a bit of a mental case right now, football wise. And then on top of that, he's very rich. And does he look like he's having fun? That's the key. Compare his demeanor now to what it was in 2017. In 2017, he looked like he was having the time of his life. He had never really played before. It was his first opportunity to get on the field, and he was great. He was winning. I just feel like for whatever reason, the last few years has kind of sucked the fun out of football for him. I don't know if it was losing in the Super Bowl, having pretty much the head coach blame him for the loss or not protect him at all, have the organization flirt with Tom Brady, who was Jimmy Garoppolo's mentor. That hurts. And then to come in this year and get hurt right away, it must be all very discouraging for Jimmy Garoppolo. Now, maybe if he could wind up back in New England, he could rediscover his love for the game. I'm not saying he's lost the love for his game, but doesn't it look like it? He doesn't look like he's enjoying himself on the field. He looks like he's like, oh, man, I don't want to get hurt again. I've gotten hurt a lot. I'm rich. I don't need this. I don't like this game as much as I used to. That's the body language that he projects. Am I wrong here? So, I mean, he's 28 years old. If he gets hurt again this year, if he struggles through a tough year of multiple injuries, gets a concussion, I mean, that hit he took from the blind side against the Dolphins when Ross Dwelly missed the block, my God. How many of those hits can he take? Does he want to take? CJ Beathard seems like he'll play forever. He doesn't mind. He'll just take these car crash hits forever. But Jimmy, I don't know. CJ's only made like a couple $1 million in his life. Jimmy's got dozens and dozens and dozens of millions in his bank account. I don't know. I hope he keeps playing. But if there was one person I had to list as someone most likely to retire before 30, a starting quarterback right now would be him. And if he doesn't retire before 30, I don't know what he's going to do. I think what he may end up going, like following the Ryan Fitzpatrick, the Ryan Tannehill career trajectory, where starter for a long time or long enough, gets hurt a lot, has to prove himself as a backup. I mean, if the Niners get rid of Jimmy Garoppolo, what team's going to bring him in as the unquestioned starter if he comes off a shaky year? Especially with 4 guys coming out of college right now who all look physically superior to Jimmy. Younger, healthier, bigger, faster, stronger arms. All 4 of those guys coming out this year. So which team's just waiting for Jimmy to give him a spot? Maybe New England. You could say maybe New England offers the Niners a 3rd-round pick. Like they're gonna, like if they let Cam Newton walk, they'll get a 3rd-round comp pick, right? They can just offer that to the Niners here and basically give nothing away. Give away what they got for Cam Newton and get Jimmy Garoppolo back. That's what they could do. All right, so let's talk about what the Niners. We've talked about what's at stake for Jimmy. I think most of us expect that he's going to be gone next year, unless something miraculous happens. It just doesn't seem like he can overcome the supporting cast's failures the way he did 3 years ago, and I don't know why. He's beaten down mentally and physically. He's not the same guy he used to be. We can agree on that. So what do the Niners do? It seems to me like Shanahan never really wanted Jimmy. Now he's gotten a 6-year extension, and Shanahan doesn't have to make any compromises anymore. He can get who he wants. He can call plays the way he wants to call them, and if Jimmy fails, he doesn't have to protect Jimmy anymore. He can say, look, Jed, Parag, John, guy's not good enough. I want Kirk. I want Matt Ryan's. I want whoever he wants. He can make that demand now. So what the Niners can do, they can trade Jimmy back to New England or do whatever they want in the offseason, or they can trade him back to New England today. I mean, Cam Newton, is he off the COVID list yet? I'm sure New England would like to have Jimmy right now. The issue is, who do you replace him with? And I've been talking with a lot of guys on my show, Vish, my dad. Who do you go to? I mean, obviously, what I would do is draft a quarterback. I think the ultimate cheat code in the NFL is these young quarterbacks who play at a high level early on, athletes like Josh Allen, Carson Wentz, Kyler Murray, Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Deshaun Watson, who are dirt cheap because they're on the rookie wage scale. That's what I would do. But Shanahan doesn't show any ability to scout quarterbacks or develop quarterbacks. Remember, he wanted CJ Beathard, not Patrick Mahomes. He was like, why draft Patrick Mahomes when we can get this insane value in the 3rd round? Shanahan and his dad have never been the kind of guys who have identified and scouted coaches well. I mean, the closest they did was like Jay Cutler. Seriously, what the Shanahans are, what they do is they're good for veteran quarterbacks. They're good for guys like Steve Young, John Elway, Matt Ryan, guys who have MVP talent, but have been, or they're on bad organizations and they're not given a real supporting cast. It's like, hey, be a hero. Shanahan's always like, no, we're not going to make Steve Young or John Elway or Matt Ryan be a hero. What I'm going to do is bring him a run game. I'm going to bring him an array of wide receivers, not just one. I'm going to bring him a play action game, and that's what the Shanahans do. So I'd be surprised. The Niners aren't going to get rid of Jimmy Garoppolo and replace him with a rookie. I don't think so. If the Niners get rid of Jimmy, they have to replace him with someone who's better than him right away. The fan base won't accept a slight step back. They won't accept one step back to take 2 steps forward. Neither will the front office, I believe. So Trevor Lawrence isn't going to happen. And the other guys, forget it, I think. We got to look at vets here. And I'm going to throw out 2 names. We'll go one by one. I'll throw through 3 names one by one. I'm going to start with Matt Ryan, okay? Matt Ryan is on a team that's 0-5 right now? They just fired their head coach. That team needs to rebuild. They're done. They've tried their best to cobble together one more run at a Super Bowl after failing in 2016. It's over. They need a full rebuild, and whoever their head coach will be next year probably would rather have one of those young quarterbacks who's coming out than Matt Ryan, who's 35, 36. So to me, Matt Ryan is available. And how many coaches, how many teams would want him? He's expensive. He's old. He's not mobile. He's not exactly what you're looking for at quarterback in 2020. Justin Herbert is. Carson Wentz is. Matt Ryan's kind of like passé, but not for Kyle. Kyle's had success with him. Kyle could sell that to the fan base and the front office. Look, give me Matt Ryan. I like Matt Ryan. Matt Ryan runs my system the way I want. And here's how it's feasible. They could trade for Matt Ryan now. They could trade for Matt Ryan before the trade deadline. Because if they trade for him before the trade deadline, there's only would be $17 million only in dead money for the Falcons, which would be pretty low. It's the least they're going to get. It'd be the best opportunity to get rid of Matt Ryan is now. And then his cap number to the Niners would be only $18 million. So if they trade Jimmy Garoppolo and bring in Matt Ryan, they actually save money. They can pull this off. They would have to make this deal before the deadline in the next few weeks. If they don't trade for Matt Ryan the next few weeks, it's going to be real hard to get him. They're not going to be able to get him in the offseason. This is a trade that has to make like during the season. Otherwise, he's stuck in Atlanta. And if you don't believe me, go look at Over the Cap and look for yourself and fiddle with the different settings. You know, cut pre-June 1, cut post-June 1, trade pre-June 1, trade post-June 1. Look it up. They can trade for Matt Ryan now. And if Jimmy Garoppolo is hurt, if he struggles again against the Rams, if he plays like he did against the Dolphins this weekend against the Rams, and the Falcons call you up and say, hey, you want Matt Ryan? I think Kyle Shanahan say, hell yeah. So that's the first thing. If Jimmy Garoppolo crashes and burns right now, doesn't bounce back against the Rams and looks like he doesn't have the ability to play through any type of injury, you know, one high ankle sprain and he's awful. He needs to be 100% healthy to be effective. If that's who he is and the Niners don't want to just totally waste the season, maybe they'll make a surprise trade for Matt Ryan before the deadline. I mean, the Falcons aren't doing anything with him. And if you were a head coach going into Atlanta, wouldn't you say, hey, can't we get this Justin Fields guy from Ohio State? Can't we get Trey Lance from North Dakota State or whoever he's from? Do we have to stick with Matt Ryan? I mean, how many coaches have gotten fired trying to win with Matt Ryan? I mean, the only guy who's ever really made it work is Kyle Shanahan. So I think that's something to look for. They're not doing anything with Matt Ryan over there. Maybe the Niners make that move in the next few weeks if Jimmy Garoppolo doesn't show signs of life. Now, let's say the Falcons don't want to get rid of Matt Ryan. They see it as actually a piece that would attract head coaches to the team in 2021. If they get rid of him, then they would be at the bottom of the barrel. They'd be a complete rebuild, and maybe good coaches wouldn't want to go there. So maybe the Falcons don't want to trade Matt Ryan. Let's look at Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins is in Minnesota. They're losing. They have one win. He's making a lot of money. He's going to be 34 years old. Let's say that team tanks this year. They go 3-13, 4-12, 5-11. Why do they want to keep Kirk Cousins? If they can't even win with Kirk Cousins, and he keeps costing them more and more money, and they're in position to draft one of these young quarterbacks who's cheaper and more physically gifted and younger, why wouldn't they do that? So they can't trade for Kirk Cousins now at the deadline, I don't believe. If they traded for him, maybe they could. His cap number this year is $21 million. So again, the Niners would have to get rid of Jimmy Garoppolo at the same time that they brought in Kirk Cousins, which I guess is obvious, right? So they could get Kirk Cousins now. Or let's see. Or they could trade for him in the offseason, in which case he would be $20 million in dead cap for the Vikings. So it seems a little unrealistic, but again, if these teams have convinced themselves, I don't want Matt Ryan anymore. I don't want Kirk Cousins anymore. We're in position to draft one of these young guys coming out. They're way, way more talented. And we're not going to be in a position like this to get a guy like this in a long time. I don't care what kind of financial hit I get getting rid of Kirk Cousins and Matt Ryan. Got to move on. It's like a Band-Aid. Rip it off. I think you're looking at that you might be in a situation in both places, and I think Kyle Shanahan knows that. And honestly, if he had his pick between Matt Ryan and Kirk Cousins, I think he would take Kirk Cousins. I really do. I think Kyle Shanahan has been waiting for years to coach Kirk Cousins. And even when the Niners traded for Garoppolo, I think he was like, all right, well, we'll see. You know, my opinion is not going to change. Not now, not 3 years from now. If Jimmy Garoppolo, you know, he's 26 now. When they got him, you know, in 3 years, if he hasn't proven himself, we could still get Kirk Cousins. I mean, Shanahan doesn't really keep secrets. He tells you exactly how he feels. And every time you ask him about Kirk Cousins, he's like, well, yeah, that's the best. I mean, I love Kirk Cousins. He's a pro. He always makes the right call. He's so good. That's why I didn't even scout Patrick Mahomes. I mean, Kyle Shanahan doesn't really change his opinions. He doubles down. You ever see Swingers where they go to Vegas and Vince Vaughn tells the other guy, you got to double down because that's how you play it. You know, got to double down. And he calls him double down the rest of the trip. It's my friend Double Down over here. Kyle Shanahan is double down. Anytime he looks like he might be wrong about something, he's like, no, let me double down real quick and prove to you why I'm right. Oh, CJ Beathard looks like a bust? No, he gets to play again. And I'm going to praise him. Okay, double down. So he says Kirk Cousins is the guy he wanted in 2017 and the reason they didn't get Patrick Mahomes. He's not going to change his opinion. He's not going to suddenly be like, I was wrong. My bad. My bad, guys. No. He's going to say, I was right the entire time. And if only I could go to an organization where people don't tell me what to do. That's the problem, man. He could sour on the Niners because what he wants is to be the king. Just like his dad was the king in Denver. Shanahan wants to be the king of a team. And he hasn't been able to be that king. Garoppolo was forced upon him. But now he's gained significantly more power. He got the deal before. He got the extension before John Lynch. He got an extra year than John Lynch. If he wants Kirk Cousins, he's getting Kirk Cousins. Especially, well, if the Vikings don't want him anymore. I think it's quite possible the Vikings don't want him anymore. One more name. Matthew Stafford. He's on the Lions. They also stink. If they fire Matt Patricia, it's possible the next head coach who comes in again says, you know what? How many coaches have been hired and fired in particular because of this quarterback right here, Matt Ryan? No one can ever make it work with him. No one can ever give him the supporting cast he needs, the running game, the defense. Why don't we just get rid of him, save $30 million, and draft Trevor Lawrence or Justin Fields? I could see that happening. So who would be interested in expensive, middle-aged Matthew Stafford? A Shanahan, because Shanahan can give Matthew Stafford a run game for the first time in his career. And Matthew Stafford is physically superior to both Matt Ryan and Kirk Cousins. If I had my choice, I would draft the quarterback. But after that, I would trade for Matthew Stafford, another guy who I think could be just as available as Cousins or Matt Ryan. And he's the youngest. So Matthew Stafford, keep that out there. And let's speak that into existence because we already know what Shanahan's going to do. Number one choice is Kirk Cousins. Number two choice is Matt Ryan. We have to speak this into existence and put pressure on him. We already know what Shanahan's going to do. But we have more influence than they like to admit. Maybe I do. Together. All 700 of us. Is it possible that Jed York and Parag Marath are beginning to sour on Kyle Shanahan? Okay, it's a question. I don't know, but what I know is Jed York can take a lot of things. He'll withstand a lot of things, but getting blown out at home isn't one of them. Now, God forbid there have been fans in the stands. Oh my God, Shanahan might have been fired already. Getting blown out at home is never acceptable to Jed York. He's very finicky about that. Also, losing on national television to a team you should beat, also unacceptable. And Shanahan and Jed and Parag have a history of turning on their coaches quick. As soon as things look bleak, the coach is thrown under the bus, and they act like, look, that guy didn't live up to our standards. We're a winning organization. He's a fraud coach. So I don't know if they feel that way about Kyle yet. But what I do know is that Kyle has a lot of splaining to do, as Ricky Ricardo would say. He got a lot of splaining to do. Like last week, for example. 2 players in particular were injured during practice and limited participants throughout the week. Ahkello Witherspoon, Jimmy Garoppolo. Okay? Injured, limited, questionable for the game. Game time decisions. Shanahan had 3 days to observe each of them and did very closely. I got to look at Ahkello. I got to look at Jimmy. I'm looking at Ahkello. I'm looking at Jimmy. And after looking at both those guys for 3 days of practice, Shanahan determined that Jimmy was healthy enough to play and Ahkello was not. Now, what we learned during the game is that Shanahan's determinations were wrong in both cases. In fact, Ahkello was healthy enough to play. When he got in the game, he played well enough. And Jimmy Garoppolo evidently was not healthy enough to play. I mean, by the second quarter, he was completely skittish in the pocket and favoring his back ankle. Not early, but in the second quarter, he absolutely did. So the 2 biggest decisions Shanahan had to make last week, he made both of them wrong. And from the head coaches, from the owner's perspective, Kyle, that's your job. We're not paying you to draw up plays and to draw up a game plan. That's what the coordinators do. You have coordinators. Mike McDaniel, Mike LaFleur, run game coordinator, pass game coordinator. We're paying you to be a head coach, and not just a little. They gave him an extension this year. He's one of the highest paid head coaches in the league. I think he's making $10 million a year. You can't even accurately assess which players are healthy enough to play on Sunday. What's that? Are you paying attention? That's what I would have to ask. I wouldn't be surprised if Jed and Parag had a sit-down meeting with Kyle after that game. 43-17, and you didn't know. You lost 43-17 primarily because you thought Ahkello Witherspoon wasn't ready to play, and you were wrong. You also thought your quarterback was ready to play, and he wasn't. You were wrong. How could you have handled that any worse? Now, what recourse does Jed and Parag have if they are souring on Kyle? Nothing. Contracts are guaranteed. This guy's getting $60 million the next few years, one way or another. But I would have to say, you have to look at Kyle a little differently after what's happened now. I mean, first of all, he passed on Patrick freaking Mahomes. That's the original sin, okay? They wouldn't be in this position with Jimmy right now if Kyle had just taken 15 minutes to watch some Patrick Mahomes film and maybe work him out too. Instead, he was like, I'm going to save 15 minutes of my day because I believe in Kirk Cousins and we're going to get Kirk Cousins. That was the original sin. Now, after giving the guy an extension that Jed and Parag were philosophically opposed to with Harbaugh. Harbaugh got to the Super Bowl, asked for an extension, and Jed and Parag said, no, we don't reward failures. We only hang NFC championship banners. And you know what? I get that because now they reward failure. And look what they get, a losing season. Well, that's what it looks like. So let's say the Niners go 7-9 this year. And it just so happens you're paying top dollar for a head coach who's had one winning season in 3 years. Then imagine what's at stake in 2021. They have to have a winning season in 2021. What if they go 6-10 in 2021? Then you've had one winning season in 5 years. How can you keep paying that guy $10 million a year if he doesn't win? So to me, from Jed and Parag's perspective, things got real serious with Kyle right now. They're paying him too much for him to have a tank year. I don't care who's hurt. Your quarterback is on the field, work it out. It'd be very discouraging to see Kyle Shanahan lose like that and then go to his post-game press conference and then just sit there like this. Well, we got to do better on third down. We're not going to be able to run the ball on first down if we're not going to be able to run the ball on 30 times a game if we don't do better on third down. We got to execute. We did pretty good week 1, but then week 2 we didn't get. It's like, dude, take the hat off, sit up, and project. Stop speaking through your nose. Stop mumbling. I feel like he needs his dad to yell at him. Sit up. Stop mumbling. Project confidence. Be a man. Sit up. Take the hat off. Stop mumbling. Show some charisma. Project confidence. Be a leader. Well, I don't really think that's fair to say. I feel like Mike McGlinchey's really having a good season, but, it's just a couple of plays that stand out. No one's having a good season. Don't fight back on criticism. Don't push back. Just say, we're not playing well enough. It starts with me. We're 2-3. This is way below our standard. Sit up in your chair. Speak with some bass in your voice. Stop talking through your nose. All of this stuff matters. You're not a coordinator anymore. You're the face of the franchise. Project a good face. Not the 17-year-old slumped over in his chair with the hat on. No, we're trying the best we can. No, dude, you're not a Super Bowl champion. You don't get that type of credit. What you are is 2-3. That's what you are. That's how you get talked to. Sit up. I got another thing to talk about with Shanahan. There's no accountability on this team. The team is soft. Anyone you talk to, they're like, you know what? I don't think we're playing that bad. I feel like people are being a little too hard on us. Sure, we've had some bad plays. We've had some moments. But if you look at the totality of our performances, I think I'm playing pretty well. Dude, no. Your team is 2-3. None of you guys are playing well enough. And, I'll get into the specific players who are talking like that in a minute, but Shanahan sets the tone. Shanahan has never blamed himself specifically for anything. He'll talk in generalities like, it starts with me. I got to do better. And then I'll ask, okay, Kyle, like your offense is averaging 5 yards a carry, but yet you're 19th in rushing attempts. Why is that? And instead of him saying like, yeah, that's on me. I need to do a better job of establishing the run game. He'll be like, well, you got to look at each game in particular. In the first game, we tried to run the ball. We had some good runs. We got behind a little bit, and you had to catch up. In the second game, I thought we did really good running the ball. Third game, it's like, no, man, just take accountability. Don't explain yourself. You're 2-3. Say, yep, that's a good point. We got to do better. We got to do better. You don't have to go up there and say, I suck. You don't have to say that. Just don't defend yourself. I learned this when I was 13. When you get in trouble with your dad and you start defending, you'd be like, no. Don't defend yourself. Just don't do it again. Say you were wrong. Don't do it again. And you're like, okay. All right. I get it. Just fix it. No more excuses. 2-3. That's not okay. Right? Let's talk about the offensive tackles. This is what I'm talking about. Shanahan's the coach. Two of the leaders on the team. McGlinchey's a captain. Trent Williams is supposed to be the best player on the team, a Hall of Famer. Both of these guys are playing awful. Just terrible. I mean, Trent Williams given up 4.5 sacks in 5 games, and Mike McGlinchey, he's only given up, I think, 2 sacks, but he's given up some hits that have led to interceptions. I think 2. When you talk to them, they're like, I don't think I'm playing that bad. Trent Williams is like, man, people think they know offensive line play, but they don't know. They don't know the blocking assignments. People think that they're experts. No. So you're telling fans to their face that they can't judge football for themselves. I'm not telling fans you're playing poorly. I'm showing them clips of you playing poorly, and they're coming to their own conclusion that you're playing poorly. Don't call people stupid, Trent. Football isn't rocket science. They see you're trying to block. They see you fail to block them. And you come out in your press conference and be like, yeah, man, I'm playing pretty good. I don't know. I think people are being too hard on me. McGlinchey, too, today. Someone say, hey, do you think the criticism of you has been fair? He goes, not really. I don't like these people on Twitter who post 1 30-second clip and say that I'm playing poorly. I think I'm playing a pretty good season. You're not. Mike, look at me. Look at me, Mike. You're not playing a good season. You're one of the best. You're one of the worst right tackles in the league. You're underweight. You're one of the main reasons the Niners are struggling. You're one of the main reasons Nick Mullins' career is on life support. And you're in denial. That doesn't bode well for this team. Anyone who thinks the Niners are going to win on Sunday has to reconcile with the fact that the offensive line thinks it's playing well. Is it? How can it improve unless it admits it has a problem? The first step to recovery is admitting you have a problem. The Niners aren't even there. I'm sorry. I've covered this team for a decade. I remember Joe Staley. I covered him for a long time. He would never, ever say, I feel like the media is being too hard on us. I feel like we need more credit from the media. Nah, man, you just need to win. If you're 2-3, Joe Staley would say, you know what? We're not playing well enough. Period. None of us are playing well enough. We're 2-3. Joe, what's wrong with the offensive line? We're not playing well enough. Joe, how come you're not playing well enough? I got to do better. Not like, hey, you're being too hard on me. Never would have happened. I don't know if it's a generational thing. I don't know. I don't really understand kids who are 10 years younger than me these days. I mean, geez, they're sensitive. Mike, you're not playing well. You're a professional athlete. Stop asking the media to be nicer on you. Stop. It's a bad look. It's soft. You're not playing well. Own it. I mean, when I broke into this profession, I was 23 and I was covering guys who were born in like the mid 80s, the early 80s. They didn't have Twitters. They didn't care what you said. They didn't care what you tweeted about them. You think Justin Smith cared? Ahmad Brooks? Patrick Willis? Ha! Navarro Bowman cared. Navarro Bowman was sensitive. But the other guys? No. No, dude. You think Justin Smith would have came out to a press conference and be like, hey, guys are being really mean. Be nicer. He'd be like, they're right. They're right. We suck. That's what Justin Smith would say. I miss that attitude. You know what? We do suck. We should play better. And if we do, then we'll get praised. I miss that. Is it a generational thing? I don't know. Maybe you guys do. I don't know. These kids born in 1997 just want praise. It's like the Niners would be fine going 6-10 this year as long as the media was nice about it. Well, maybe we shouldn't be nice about it. Maybe if I really criticize them hard, they'll squeak out 9 wins this year. They should. They're way too talented to go 5-11 this year. What else are we talking about? Okay, so how can the Niners get back to winning? To me, what's so ridiculous about this season is that their run game should be the best in the league. It's averaging 5 yards a carry. Mostert's healthy. Juszczyk's healthy. Kittle's healthy. Trent Williams is healthy. McGlinchey's healthy. They all really struggling to pass protect, but they're averaging 5 yards a carry, and Raheem Mostert in particular looks better than last year. So here's what I want to see. I want to see the Niners rediscover their identity. Because to me, through 5 games, they have no identity, especially on offense. What do? They're a pass-first team now. A bad pass-first team that can't pass protect with a bunch of young wide receivers. So, to me, the identity of this team always has been the fullback, Kyle Juszczyk. Whenever they're in trouble, go to Juszczyk. And that doesn't mean give him the ball necessarily. It just means put him in his position at fullback in the I formation and let him be at the point of attack. Let the offense run through him. Throw the ball to him. Give him carries. He's such a great player at everything he does. And Kyle Shanahan is such a genius. He's so smart that he intermittently forgets about Kyle Juszczyk. I mean, I still can't get over the first play call of the game against the Eagles. For Nick Mullins, poor Nick Mullins. Shotgun, Kyle Juszczyk in the slot. Dude, can you please get back to your identity? Juszczyk in the I formation, hand the ball to Mostert. Use Juszczyk. He had a touchdown run against the Dolphins. Where is he? He should be getting more touches. 4th and 1 in the first quarter. No Juszczyk on the field. Wasn't even on the field. You go to the shotgun, hand the ball off to Jerick McKinnon. Dude, that is not your identity. You know, when things started going back for Jim Harbaugh, they lost their identity. Now, the reason they lost their identity was they lost Anthony Davis. They're a run-first team that when they lost Anthony Davis and replaced him with Jonathan Martin, they couldn't run to the right. Jonathan Martin was not an NFL player. He was awful. So you became a run-first team that could only run left. That's what happened there. See what I'm saying? They lost their identity. All of a sudden, they tried to become a shotgun pass-first offense because they couldn't just line up under center and churn you to death with power runs. They couldn't do it anymore. And they went 8-8, even without their identity. The Niners have lost their identity too, and it's not because Kyle Juszczyk's hurt. He's not. He's just not being used enough. I want to see Kyle Juszczyk back where he needs to be. And to me, if the Niners use Kyle Juszczyk and Raheem Mostert as they should, they can go on a winning streak. How do you have a running back who's averaging 7 yards a carry and you're 2-3? How? How is that possible? Come on. And when I asked Kyle Shanahan, like, why aren't you running the ball enough? And he's saying, well, we keep falling behind. We're behind the chains. Maybe you're falling behind. You're behind the chains because you're not running the ball enough. Yo! Did that never occur to you? Run the ball. It'll fix everything. Okay, final topic. I think I've done everything. The cornerbacks. Again, the Niners aren't going to beat the Rams if they don't have better cornerback play. The offense is a problem, but the defense it's better than the defense. The defense is just decimated. And mostly at cornerback, like the replacement DNs have been okay. The pass rush isn't great anymore. Salah's manufacturing it with blitzes. The run defense is terrific. The cornerbacks are atrocious. And what you need to know is that it's not just Brian Allen who stinks. Jamar Taylor stinks too. Jamar Taylor needs to share that. Jamar Taylor's awful. If either one of those two plays on Sunday, the Niners have a very long shot at winning. But I'm not certain that either one will play. Here's another silver lining or some positivity, optimism looking ahead. It's looking like Emmanuel Mosley's going to play in this game. Now, he hasn't been cleared from the concussion protocol yet, but he's practicing with a blue jersey on. He's practicing. It just means that no one touches him. So that to me means if he makes it through these practices without a setback, without experiencing more symptoms from his concussion, he's going to play. Now, you don't know if he's going to have a setback. Who knows? But the Niners clearly are crossing their fingers. And if he says he's good to go, he's going to be good to go. So how do the 49ers structure their cornerback trio for this game? It's not, to me, good enough to just say, all right, take out Brian Allen, put in Emmanuel Mosley, and we're good. No, because you still have Jamar Taylor on the field, and he's terrible. And if you don't believe me, check out my YouTube channel and look at the video I posted about 45 minutes ago called Jamar Taylor is a liability in the 49ers defense. It's one clip. It's like 2 clips. It's bad. So what I think the Niners will do, and I think they alluded to it today, Jimmy Ward, because they asked him, hey, Jimmy, you going to play a little nickel? And he said, no, because he stinks at nickel. And he said, but we're getting E-Man back. Think about E-Man, Mosley. Before he took Ahkello Witherspoon's starting job last season, in camp, he was the backup nickelback. He got reps outside and inside, slot and outside. He can play nickel. So what I think the Niners, well, I don't know what they'll do. But what they should do, and what I think they may do, is start Mosley opposite Verrett. But then when they go to when the Rams go to 3 wide receiver formations, what they do most of the game, don't bring in Taylor. Move Mosley into the slot. Or Verrett, but probably Mosley. And then bring in Witherspoon and put Witherspoon out wide. I think that's the best they can do. And, really, if they have that configuration at cornerback, the right 3 corners, 3 guys who aren't god-awful, no Brian Allen, no Jamar Taylor, and a game plan on offense that actually features the run game, establishes it early, and sticks with it. If they run the ball 30 times and Jamar Taylor and Brian Allen doesn't play, I think the Niners have a legit shot to beat the Rams. Now, the problem with the Rams is if you can't harass Jared Goff, he'll play. He'll look like Aaron Rodgers. As soon as you get pressure on him, he crumbles, which is what the Niners did last year. Can they still get pressure on him? I don't know. And if they can't, can they cover? I don't know. So, look, I'm not saying the Niners are definitely going to beat the Rams, but if they can control the game with their run game and at least have serviceable corners, no Allen, no Taylor, they have a legit shot. That's what I want to leave you guys at today, with a little positivity and a vision to the future on how the Niners can get back into the race. It's not going to be easy. The next 7 games are against freaking playoff teams, and the Niners have to go 7-4 the rest of the way just to finish 9-7. 9-7 might do it. But they're not going to go 7-4 if Jamar Taylor plays 3 games in a row, or if Raheem Mostert's getting 10 touches a game. Not going to happen. To go 7-4 the rest of the way, Mostert's going to have to get 20 touches a game, 17 to 20, and ball out. Juszczyk's going to have to be heavily used. Kittle's going to have to do better. Garoppolo's going to have to figure it out. And Brian Allen has to never, ever, 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 ever be on the field ever again. And Shanahan has to stop talking through his nose and sit up straight. Take the hat off. I'm just saying, these are tips to help you project confidence. Because I'm not a confident person, but I can project it because I'm so insecure. I've been thinking for years, what is the key to pretending to be confident? I can tell you for sure it's not slumping over in your chair and speaking into your belly button through your nose. That's just a bad look. Well, nah. Sit up. The thing about like Sean McVay, he's not as good of a coordinator as Kyle Shanahan, but he projects confidence. He has charisma. He talks through his chest. Things like that matter. John Gruden does. Jim Harbaugh does. Bill Walsh did. Now, Kyle's very young. And, Robert Saleh's learning to be a coordinator. Shanahan's learning to be a head coach. These are the things. How you lead. How you lead. Your team is in denial right now. How can you change that? Do you have any force of will to turn this season around, or are you a passive spectator? Because it looks like you're a spectator right now. All you can say is, they didn't execute. They didn't execute. They're paying you $10 million a year to say that? Got to work harder. Got to execute. Really? Okay. Hey, guys, thanks so much for watching me the last 45 minutes. I'm going to head out. I'll be back, but I'm here every day at 3. So thanks for watching, and I'll be back tomorrow.